Hi, it's Zach Nellis here from Newsletter Marketing Systems. Now, I'm here to talk you through a really simple way to look at customer lifetime value. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to take a typical customer from Stripe Designs, now Printtown, and I'm going to explain what Bob would do and how much he'd spend with us over the course of his lifetime. Bob meet the audience, audience meet Bob. So, we knew that when Bob would actually purchase with us, typically he'd spend about $200. So, that's what we have. We also knew that we could expect Bob to probably make 3 purchases a year. So 3 times $200 is $600 a year. Good Bob. Now, next thing we could predict reliably is Bob would stay active for about 3 years. So he'd spend $200 a year 3 times, $200 a transaction 3 times for $600. He'd do that 3 years. So he was going to, every time we got a new customer, we felt pretty confident we're locking in $1,800 worth of revenue over 3 years. Sadly, Bob didn't actually refer us any business over that 3 years. Now, the important thing to remember with customer lifetime value is referrals should be counted against the value of the customer that referred them. Yes, it counts it twice if you count it against the customer that spent it, but you've got to remember that value is there to be unlocked. So, here's what we know. Bob spent $1,800 over his lifetime, and then he kind of gets sick of us, goes somewhere else. And if you know anything about customer defection, you know that according to Bain & Company, 2/3 of all customers that have left actually leave because they don't feel appreciated. And the principal cause of not feeling appreciated is the business owner not developing a long-term a relationship with the customer outside of "Would you like to buy now?" So that means that we weren't really investing enough in keeping Bob, because there's nothing stopping him from spending $600 a year every year into the future until he's no longer in business. So we all know that you have to give in order to receive, and we gave very little back then, and we got very little in return. It's actually one of the reasons that Strive had sort of hit capacity. We couldn't actually get enough customers to stay long enough to grow the business. So what would happen if we could get Bob to spend an extra $100 a transaction? Now, in this case, usually it's not wouldn't have been that difficult. I mean, Bob was typically ordering a single product each time he ordered, and there were plenty of other things we could have upsold him to each time. If we had to just ask a couple of smart questions. So I reckon it wouldn't be too hard to move the average transaction size from $200 to $300. Now, the next thing is, what can we do to get Bob to buy an extra time, 4 times a year instead of 3? So, one of the easiest things to do is, we knew Bob was only buying probably 2 or 3 out of the 10 products we sold. So, if we were producing a print newsletter every month and we had a client success story about how they could educate a customer on how to be more effective, using print in their business. For example, let's say Bob wasn't buying presentation folders. We explained how another client was using presentation folders to increase their close rate. That was a good chance that Bob might read that and go, "Hey, yeah, I should be doing the same thing." Another example, we could show Bob that he could be using fridge magnets as well as business cards to create a permanent um, sort of piece of real estate in his clients' businesses or homes. He might have bought some fridge magnets. So there we go. There's 2 examples of ways we could have weaseled out a fourth purchase out of him. Now, we had 20 products, and we got Bob buying instead of 4 of them, buying 8 of them. We probably would have been all right. Now, let's just be conservative and say that we could only get Bob to stay 4 years instead of 3. Now, let's just do some simple math on this. So let's just say we're going to be very, very, very conservative and say that it's going to cost us a big number to retain him. Let's say it's going to cost us $40 a year to keep Bob buying for life. Would I spend $40 a year to keep Bob for $4 4 years instead of 3? Would I invest $160 to get worst case, an extra $600 or an extra $1,200 in revenue, which is what he'd get if he was buying at the second rate. Absolutely, I'd invest that every day of the week in order to get, I'd spend $40 a year every year to keep Bob buying it, even at $600 a year. But I'd definitely be doing it if he's spending $1,200 a year with me. So now, next thing, let's say over those 4 years, we got Bob to simply refer one additional customer. Now, that means that Bob's actually replaced himself. That means that we don't have that problem with having to go out and find a new Bob after 3 years. When Bob drops off the face of the earth, we know that we've got a replacement for him. In this case, Bobette. So, how realistic is this? Well, considering the average funeral and wedding attendance is 52 guests, that means that Bob has 52 opportunities where he could make a referral. Now, if you're selling B2B, it's not quite that good. It's the average business buyer probably can name 22 peers or acquaintances in a similar position or higher in companies other than his own, which means that theoretically they can recommend 22 buyers. So if you think you're getting really good referrals out of your customers, are you getting 22 or 52 referrals per customer? So let's have a look at what all these changes mean for Bob in terms of his lifetime value at Printtown. Okay, this is the new Bob. We know he's spending $300 a transaction. We know that Bob's buying 4 times a year, so he's spending $1,200 a year instead of $600. We know that over 4 years, he's spending $4,800 with us instead of $1,800. Now think about this. We've been very conservative with the number of years. He could very easily stay active at that higher rate for many years to come if we just continue to treat him right. So, and then we say that Bob's referred a new customer. So we've got $300 by 4 by 4 by 2 because we've basically doubled it, and we can safely assume that the new referral will probably spend the same rate and stay around as long as Bob has, because birds of a feather tend to flock together. So usually you can bank on referrals being as good a customer as the person who referred them. So Bob will actually be responsible for $9,600 of income over his lifetime. So the question is, which Bob do you want? Do you want the one worth $1,800 lifetime or the one worth $9,600 lifetime? Now, I will admit that, it looks a bit too good to be true, but, we've been conditioned to think of linear growth in our business. It's the problem that sort of hangs around with us from school, that employee sort of wage slave school mentality. We only want 10% more. We want 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 to equal 4. However, there's such a thing as geometric growth where everything sort of feeds into itself. So there are, what we're actually talking about here is nothing's doubled. Everything's only a small improvement. So we've got a 33% increase in transaction size. We've got a 25% increase in purchasing frequency. We've got a 25% increase in the years the customer is active, and we have a 100% increase in referrals. Well, and then all of that comes down to a 533% increase in customer value. It's great maths, and it's how businesses actually work. And that sort of improvement can actually be yours should you make the investment in a good, solid relationship with your customer and educate them on all the ways that you can be a benefit to their business. So that's me done for now. Talk to you soon, and go get them, Tiger.